So I was casually browsing a Chinese website looking for another product made by this Chinese company, when suddenly I stumbled upon something quite interesting. Let's just call it a gadget for now. Now, what we have here is the IFYOO right hand wrist rest, supposedly designed to relieve your wrist from the tyranny of mouse usage. Intrigued, right? Let's peel back this RGB lit onion and see if this thing's a real deal or it's just another overhyped product. Starting with the product itself, it comes in a nice blue box. Upon opening it, you'll find the wrist rest. Mine is yellow, the one I picked up, but it also features RGB lighting because, you know, nothing says ergonomics like a disco wrist rest, right? I mean, who needs a lightweight design when you can have a wrist rest that can double as a rave prop? The RGB lighting is pretty decent, but there's really no point in having RGB on your wrist rest. I don't get it. This thing could have been much lighter without a battery and lights. Oh, and let's not forget the functions of the RGB settings, because let's be honest, if your wrist rest doesn't come with its own light show, are you even gaming properly? To cycle through the RGB settings, there's a button on the backside of the slider, allowing you to change your RGB settings. Stepping back and looking at how to properly use this, they advertise it to sit under your palm and slightly in front of your actual wrist. It is a little uncomfortable at first, but you will get used to it. Also, in the promotion material, they also say it takes between 1 to 2 weeks of use to get used to it to get the benefits of having a wrist rest. So I aimed for 2 weeks of use, and after this 2 weeks, I have a couple complaints. My first complaint is that when I pull down to shoot somebody or even to move my mouse down, I have a habit of hitting the wrist rest instead of pulling down my entire arm. Now, again, this could have just been me personally and how I use my mouse, but I find it quite annoying. The second issue I have had is that mine has a slight defect. I'm not surprised being a Chinese product, but the material they use to make the glide super slippery has a bubble in it, resulting in more of a sticky glide than a smooth one. It's not the end of the world, but it's also not the best, and I just have to compensate a little bit more with that defect. Regarding wrist pain and relieving pressure on your wrist, I really do think it works quite well for that specifically. I did notice my wrists hurt less when I use my mouse, and my overall gaming sessions could last a little bit longer by using the wrist rest. But again, it's very awkward to get used to. However, once you get past that stage, which for me only took 2 days, it worked well and it does what it's advertised to do. Now, I do think the RGB is unnecessary, but I see why they did it. They catered to the gaming audience, quotation marks. I also wanted to bring up the conversation that you could just 3D print this. You could basically buy some cheap sliders off Amazon for $3, and if you have a 3D printer or a friend who has one, you could literally 3D print this exact wrist rest. I also tested my aim using the wrist rest in Aim Labs versus without the wrist rest. Initially, I actually lost score, but after using it for 2 weeks and then going back to Aim Labs to reset my score, I ended up getting the same score or even higher when using the wrist rest. However, this wasn't much of a difference overall. That being said, I honestly think this could be useful in some scenarios. However, based on my experience, I really don't think this thing is worth buying. It's a pretty cool gimmick / gadget, but I really don't think it's worth the price point. By the way, I ended up paying $20 in total for this thing, 10 for the product and 10 for shipping from China. So that's gonna end my review. I honestly don't think you should buy this product. It's pretty cool of a gimmick and you could just 3D print it at home or buy one off Amazon. There's hundreds. But this is where I'm gonna leave it. You guys have a good one.